If you have been a follower of this channel for some time, you probably know that back then I was doing some Google Ads and e-commerce Q&As every now and then. Now, it's a format that I want to revive, and this video here marks the first video of this sort of revived series, if you like, because I noticed that many questions are not that easy to answer in the comments, and I just give like a brief sentence. But if you have any questions about Google Ads for e-commerce, performance marketing, you name it, make sure to put them below in the comments. And if I think it's a good fit for this channel, and if it's a good fit to explain it in an actual video, then I might pick it and answer it in one of the next Q&A videos. So with that being said, without any further ado, let's jump into the questions. I have 6 questions for you today, and let's get started with the first. So the first question is, I haven't talked to you since late 2019. Has a lot changed with Google Ads and high-ticket dropshipping? Well, yes, certainly. I mean, that's 4 years ago, and 4 years ago we still had smart shopping. We didn't have Pmax. Expanded text ads were still around. Demand gen wasn't there. You know, many things that you had or didn't have back then that you have or do not have anymore. So the most important thing, I believe, is that the general trend goes towards automation. So what we have to do at this point, also for high ticket, because we have a bunch of high ticket clients selling up to, $15,000 products like complex computers, etc. The most important thing is that you have to feed the system great assets. And what I mean with assets is not only images and videos, but also, headlines, keywords, negative keywords, descriptions, audiences, the overall sort of thing. What you shouldn't focus on is micromanagement of bidding, right? So the trend goes towards automation, but this means that you really need to know what you're doing, that you have to orchestrate the whole thing, and that you have to deliver great inputs. But you do not have to micromanage bids and adjust the CPC bid on a keyword level every day. That's certainly a thing of the past. Also, when it comes to search ads, broad match performs much better now than it did back then. 2019, it was already doing pretty well, but now in 2023 or the end of 2023, broad match is certainly the way to go most of the time. I only recommend to use phrase and certainly exact match if you have a very specific product where you have an information advantage over Google and you say, hey, those things just don't make sense. I only want that particular search query. But 90% of the time, if I look across all our 1 million in monthly ad spend for our clients, 90% of the time, if not more, we are going with broad match at that point simply because it performs the best and we have tested it numerous times. So I hope this answers your question. Let's move on to the next one. Hey Marco, I've set up Pmax and it spent the budget for 1 day and it just stopped spending the next day and its status changes from eligible to bid strategy learning. Any idea why this happened? Well, I assume the question here is why sort of bid strategy learning. Well, bid strategy learning is not a bad thing, right? Every campaign that uses an automated bidding strategy that is not manual CPC has to go through the learning phase. And this means that bid strategy learning isn't bad. It's just the start of a campaign. If you see it, don't worry. Wait a couple of days or a couple of weeks, depending on your budget, depending on how many conversions you get, and this should go away. What you need to understand is that the performance of a campaign stabilizes over time. And whenever you launch a new one, there is, of course, a new learning phase. And Google has to understand what your conversion looks like, it has to learn about your business, right? So you launch this campaign and it's now stabilizing. It tries to find you the ideal customers, given the assets that you provided it with. In a Pmax campaign, you have a bunch of assets, descriptions, headlines, products, then you have your conversion goal. Google tries to figure out what to do with it, and over time performance will stabilize. So that's why I'm not exactly sure why it showed eligible first, then bid strategy learning. As far as I can tell, this may not always show immediately. It's actually something that I have to think about right now. I'm not quite sure, but usually when you launch a new campaign, almost immediately you will see bid strategy learning pretty much right away. Then we have why we create a campaign without a goal guidance in this display ads, and you say always. Well, a campaign without a goals guidance has, or the goal of a campaign has nothing to do with the optimization. So if you select, for example, brand awareness, right? Selecting it will not have an impact on how well your campaign does at creating brand awareness for you. And same thing goes for sales. The only thing it does is it limits your range of settings that you have to a certain more narrow one. So if you pick sales, you will only have a selected amount of campaigns and settings to choose from, and same for the other ones, right? So what you want to do is ideally always go without a goals guidance, because then you have all the campaigns, all the settings, everything at your fingertips. The only reason or the only situation I might choose an objective is when you are like absolutely brand new at Google Ads and you don't want to be confused by all the settings that you have. But 99% of the time, just go with a goal, with a campaign without a goals guidance. That will be your best friend. Hello, thank you for video. Can you please tell if it is okay to start a new campaign with max conversions when I have no data on it, or is it better to get 20 to 30 conversions on manual CPC first and then switch to max conversions? I'm talking about display company, which I assume means display campaign. Well, yeah, 20 to 30 conversions is always a good start to use auto bidding. If you have a brand new account, I recommend to stick to manual CPC until you have like 20 to 30 conversions a month, roughly. Of course, it always depends, but roughly 20 to 30 is a good starting point. What you need to understand is that Google sort of optimizes for conversions on the account level. So if you have 10 campaigns with 10 conversions per month each, you have 100 account conversions. Now, it's still better to accumulate conversions within a campaign. So I much rather have one campaign with 500 conversions a month than two campaigns with 250 each, because that one campaign will be more optimized, more stable, provide better performance, etc. But every conversion that you accumulate in your account will go towards your overall account conversions, let's say. So if you have 20 to 30 conversions in the account, you can start new campaigns with target ROAS. Sometimes it's 50 conversions, sometimes it's 100. When you talk about display, I definitely recommend rather more than fewer conversions. Display is very difficult to make work. In generally, I also recommend to use discovery or the new demand gen instead, because they tend to perform much better than display. But if you want to use display, I would actually say have at least 100, maybe 200 conversions a month before you start it, because you will need a lot of algorithmic power, so to speak, and learnings to actually be able to make profitable use of display, as it's very complicated. Same goes for YouTube, by the way. Don't try to start a YouTube campaign when you're just starting with a brand new account, unless you have absolutely crazy, astonishing video assets and a large budget, but you really need a lot of conversion data to make those campaign types work. Great video. Recently, one of my Pmax campaigns dropped spending the budget off like 80%. I'm still trying to figure out why that is. Do you had this happen before as well? Well, thank you for your feedback. Yes, every now and then we have something like that. Usually when the drop is as significant, 80%, there is some technical issue behind it, okay? So your landing page may not be available anymore, or there's some issue with it, or your products got disapproved, or there was something wrong with your assets and they are restricted, or something along those lines, right? Or maybe you changed from maximize conversion value to target ROAS, and the target ROAS was actually too strict. Those are changes that may cause a drop in 80%. Normally, you don't drop by 80% for no reason. So if, let's say, your campaign has been spending $100 per day consistently, and then suddenly you're down to 20 without any reason, and it's for more than one day, let's say, then there is something off, right? It doesn't just happen like that. Yes, you have ups and downs, of course, especially with lower budgets, but that's nothing that should really happen that significantly. So make sure that you check if there are any issues, any policy issues, the merchant center is fine, that there is no target that is too restrictive. I mean, your question is pretty old at this point. I just wanted to use it because I thought it's a good one for this Q&A, but that's a very important thing to look at. It doesn't happen just out of thin air. And now the last question. For print-on-demand products like t-shirts and hoodies, which type of ad should I run? Google Shopping, YouTube Short, Display, Demand Gen, or other? Please recommend. Well, we have a very, very large print-on-demand client where we use all these campaign types that you mentioned. I can tell you the most important ones are definitely Shopping and Pmax. Why? Because those are visual campaign types. And of course, with print-on-demand, it's all about the visual aspect, right? People don't perfectly describe a print-on-demand hoodie, and then you have the exact hoodie and you show it to them and they will buy it. The only situation where I would use search campaigns, besides brand and maybe competitors and stuff like that, and some dynamic search, is when you have a very niched print-on-demand store. So let's say you have a print-on-demand store for cat lovers, or you have a print-on-demand store for hip-hop music lovers, or whatever it is. Then a search campaign may be useful, and you can go for those very specific keywords. But if you have like a general print-on-demand store with all kinds of subcategories and all kinds of random things, then really only shopping in Pmax. You can use display / discovery, demand gen, YouTube. Also, if you have, first of all, great assets, if you have very visual and engaging products and not like some kind of boring designs. And also, again, ideally, if you have a niche store. So let's stick to the example of the dog lover store. Let's say you have a store with all kinds of dog lover motifs, shirts, hoodies, pillows, you name it, mugs. Then it could be a good idea to run some demand gen campaigns with a bunch of different images, a bunch of different products, put everything together nicely. This can also work, but start with shopping in Pmax, maybe some search, and maybe the rest if it makes sense in the context of your store and your topic. So these were the questions for today. As I said, if you have more, leave them in the comments. I look forward to read them and potentially answer them in one of the next videos. Also, if you have an online store and you want us to help you with your Google Ads, to grow them, to make them more profitable, to scale them to the next level, if they seem unscalable at this point for whatever reason, make sure to check the first link in the description. We at Cartlift are happy to help you out. Or if you want to learn it and do it all by yourself, make sure to check the second link, the eCom PPC Academy, a highly condensed, actionable online training course where I show you everything you need to know from A to Z on how to scale and be profitable with Google Ads, specifically for e-commerce. So with that being said, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more Google Ads and e-commerce content. And with that being said, thanks a lot for watching. I look forward to see you in the next video again. Bye-bye.